Okay, good morning to everybody. Sorry we're a little late getting started here. I had a little trouble getting things booted up and up and running. So fortunately, it looks like we're up and going. So we're in week 15. This is finals week. So we're down toward the very end. And well, the only activity for this week, I'm going to have just a really brief review session today. It's not going to be a very long based on my experience from yesterday. I'll be here for really the entire session. If anybody has any questions individually for me after sort of I'm done going over what the format of the exam is, et cetera, feel free to do that. We had a couple of people yesterday in one of my sections who decided to ask questions a little bit afterwards, and that's fine. Unfortunately, because as I've said before, the technology in this room does not allow for me to hear you. You'd have to type your question in the chat box or just agree to call me or whatever. In fact, I've got an office hour right after this class is over, so I'll be here most of the morning. I'll be available to you in case you have questions. So no problem. Hopefully, and be able to contact with me. So again, I'm sorry for a little bit of a late start there. A little bit of trouble getting the computer going. I'm not sure what didn't look like it was plugged in all the way. It looked like something was loose on it. I had to sort of jiggle some things. So hopefully we're up and running. As far as last week's exam goes, I didn't hear from anybody that had any difficulties, so that's good. And hopefully everyone's gotten the hang of the Brightspace system, if you weren't already familiar with it prior to now. So hopefully that went well. But if you did have some issues, let me know. This is the week to do it, because next week everything is all over with, and there's really no chance to go back and make any kind of adjustments and whatnot. So this is the final exam week. And so really, I don't have any new content to go over. Maybe that's good news for you, because all we have really left is the final. And so of the first four exams, you might remember that I've said this before, but it probably bears repeating. So there are 400 points possible in the first four exams, 4 times 100, and we drop the lowest. Okay, so there are 300 points of those 400 points possible, and then you get a final exam worth 100 points. Okay, so the final exam is going to be worth 100 points. It's going to be a little bit different, just a little bit. It's going to be 50 multiple choice questions, as opposed to the 40 you've seen up to this point. And it's going to be times 2 points each. So a little bit less point value on each, and with more questions. And the good news is, though, you'll have 120 minutes to complete the exam, as opposed to 90 minutes. So there's some good things and bad things in here, but really most of the good things, I think, for you, in the sense you've got more time to work on it, and there are fewer points per question. So if you have an issue with a particular area, at least that won't impact you as much as it would have otherwise. Okay, so that's what the format of the exam is going to look like. I'll talk more about what to expect on it in a minute, but I wanted to sort of reiterate this point about the first four exams and how we drop the lowest one. So what's going to happen is on Monday, when I do the grading for the class, that's next Monday, I'm just going to go into Brightspace, and I'm just going to have the lowest of those four scores removed, and it'll go to 0. And I know that for whatever reason, maybe I didn't do a great job communicating it, because I've been doing this for years, dropping the lowest score. But I had one section which people were just freaking out, just email me, calling the dean, everybody, saying, why did he zero out this score? And it's like, well, I zeroed it out because it's the lowest, which you would want to have happen if you had a low score. If you had like a 90, 80, 70, 60, you'd want that 60 to go away. But the only way to make it go away is to zero it out. That's what dropping the lowest score means. So it was a little bit strange. And I've never seen it before where there was a little bit of anxiety about that. But that's what I'm going to do. And then so we take those 300 points plus the 100 points, which we can't drop from the final. And so there'll be 400 points possible in the course. There is a way for Brightspace to do it automatically, where as you progress cumulatively throughout the semester, it just simply drops the lowest score. The problem with that is, though, that it doesn't really show you how you are doing at any one time, unless you sort of guess, because let's say you got an 80 on the first exam and an 84 on the second. That 80 goes away, and all you've got after half the semester is 184 grade. It doesn't really tell you, and then you just don't know what you're going to get as you come up further. So and then if you get a 70 on the next one, then it drops that 70 and the 80 comes back. So to me, I know the system could do that, and some instructors do it that way. To me, that seems like a much more difficult way to do it. I would much rather tell everybody up front, this is what's going to happen on the back end. We're going to drop the lowest. That way you can know for sure where you stand and where you stand cumulatively as you go throughout the semester. So week 7, week 8, all that. So you don't have to sort of be in the dark. And plus, you might forget what your lowest score was as you get through the semester. So I think it's a little bit problematic to do it that way. I much prefer this, but I want everybody to know what's going to happen with that. Okay, so the exam will be due. So it'll be available on Thursday. Okay, so it's going to be available right after class. What I'm going to do, and this is going to be, it's going to be 421, right? It's going to be available 421 through 424 at 11:59 p.m. is the cutoff date, and the system will shut you down if you're still open on the exam. So one thing that I have noticed is that I've seen more and more people opening the exams and then sort of walking away to do something, and then coming back in and they can't get back into it because the system has timed them out, has frozen them out, or the internet connection has terminated or something has gone wrong. So what I would encourage you to do, and it is a 2-hour exam, so which doesn't mean it's going to take you 2 hours. If you get done in an hour, I don't know that necessarily you should be thinking, oh my God, I made some huge mistake because it's a 2-hour exam and I'm wrapping up too early. I mean, if it takes you an hour, it takes you an hour. If it takes you 2 hours, it takes you 2 hours. Personally, I'm a fairly slow test taker. So I've been noticing, keep an eye on the clock the whole time I'm doing the exam just because I sort of take my time to do it. But I would encourage you to find a spot that's conducive to doing that, quiet and all that, and get a Coke or bottle of water or something, a cup of coffee, whatever, and then you can spend a couple of uninterrupted hours doing that. Obviously, it's an internet exam, excuse me, an online exam, so you're able to use the text, the online text, and whatever other resources you are able to use. There is a time limit though, so you're going to don't fall into the trap of trying to look up every answer because you're probably not going to have time to do that. So, and hopefully that won't be the case. Let's talk a bit about what the format of the exam is going to be beyond just simple multiple choice questions. This is what we would call a comprehensive final, and I know that word sort of causes anxiety, but it really shouldn't, because if you think about econ as well as a lot of other disciplines, we're by no means alone. The material itself is sort of cumulative by nature. That is, we'll study demand and supply curves and the PQ plate or whatnot, and then we'll sort of expand that to include aggregate demand and aggregate supply. So really, to understand aggregate demand and aggregate supply, you've really got to sort of have a recollection and a knowledge, a background in the regular demand and supply curve for just a basic market model. So in some ways, it really does sort of build on it anyway. So it's not totally a case where you've got to go back and pull out some obscure fact. And that's going to be one thing that I should mention on the exam is I'm not going to be pulling some weird article out of one of the cutaways from chapter 5 or whatever, dealing with some obscure topic. What's going to be covered on the exam are going to be, there's going to be nothing new in terms of content. So this is why today I'm not really going to, and never really intended to cover any new material. In fact, we got really through all the material in the class that I expected we would, which is pretty interesting that we got where we needed to be. I had one other attend anywhere section, where we didn't quite get there. We didn't drop a lot of material. There were a couple of chapters that I wanted to get to. We just didn't have time. And as I explained to that class, this is the attend anywhere arrangement is fairly new for us here in the School of Chess. I've done it a few times with the School of Business, and it works well. And I think students like it, frankly. But I think that there was anticipation here that we would have more students attend class physically, take exams, that we'd have students sort of pick and choose. Maybe Tuesday I come to class, Thursday I don't come to class, I watch it remote at home on the video, whatever. It turns out most people want to do it remotely, either on the live Zoom link, like we've got people at this moment on, or watching later, which seems to be the preferred way to do it. And I realize that people have got lives, and I think we all realize that. A lot of you have jobs and maybe even have families, and so maybe Monday through Thursday is just really not workable, or Monday through Friday even is not workable for you to do some of this content. So maybe it's better to on Friday night, Saturday, Sunday, whatever, to do it then, which is perfectly fine. Some of our online classes, we do have work during the week, but it's the big stuff usually occurs and is due over weekends. And that's pretty standard, I think, for online delivery or hybrid delivery, hybrid meaning in class as well as online activities. This really was intended to be a hybrid class, but it looks like maybe students are sort of setting the tone here for making this what it is, which is probably a live feed. Anybody who wants to come is more than welcome. We've got plenty of room here. This is a regular classroom that I'm in, by the way. So there's, I don't know, 40 seats or whatever. So you're more than welcome to do that. But it looks like most people want to do it remotely, which is fine. So no problem there. Anyway, enough of that. On the exam itself, it's going to be 50 multiple choice. Oh, I guess I got into this by talking about the fact that there's nothing new. It's going to be a material we've already covered. But what will happen is I may use a question similar to what you saw maybe on exam 2 or exam 1, where maybe I said the demand curve shifts right. And what is the effect on equilibrium price and quantity? Maybe I have the demand curve shifting left as a new scenario. So this won't be a matter of memorizing old exam questions. It's more a question of knowing what the content is about and sort of going from there and really understanding what's being asked for in those exams and going from there. That's really the strategy as far as that goes. If you have any questions about anything regarding the content, I can take them now, or I can take them as I wrap up here. I don't think there's much more to talk about. I really wanted this to be sort of a review session for you. And when I designed the syllabus, there's a reason why I got into talking about the attend anywhere and how we thought there was going to be more in-class attendance, is the fact that usually these review sessions prior to finals are sort of my opportunity to take questions from you if you have questions about anything, whatever, about the material we've covered up to this date. And I never really understood the production possibilities model. What was that? Can you go over it? That sort of thing. I'm available to answer that. But that's really the format. Just real quickly to tell you about the process from here on. Unless you have any issues with exam 4, that grade should be available and posted in Brightspace. This exam is going to be due on Sunday, so the 24th. That's a pretty hard and fast deadline. I know that I've typically allowed makeups in this class, although we've had very few, I guess, mostly because of the fact that we've had several days to complete exams, which I think is great. Because makeups really don't always work in your advantage. There's a penalty and all that. As to this exam, there's really no chance to do a makeup, and here's why. I've got to get grades reported really the next day. I've technically got until Tuesday, but Tuesday is not a very good day to do that, mostly because the school gets really anxious when instructors don't start posting their exam, their final exam, their final scores on Tuesday, because they've got a hard cutoff so that everybody else in the administration can do their thing. There's a lot of things that go on behind the scenes. Apparently, they've got to download the grades. They've got to, put them on transcripts. They've got to do all these things, reconcile financial aid, all that good stuff. So there's a deadline that they need. Plus, it sort of messes up your financial aid if you are doing a summer section, which I think starts May 16th. And we're going to have a lot of econ courses this summer, so that should be good. So that's available. But it'll be Monday that I have to report the grades. So I won't really have time to outside chance, if you say I could do it within 2 hours and it's 9 o'clock in the morning on Monday, that's probably going to be acceptable. But if you're calling at 9 o'clock at night on Monday, that's just not gonna work, unfortunately. So anyway, but you've got a fairly long time frame in order to do it. The exam is mostly done. I'm just going to make some tweaks to it, so I'll make it available. What I'm going to do on Thursday is just have a regular class session like I have on the previous 4 exams. And again, maybe I'll revisit this idea of having just an open class session on exam days in general, because our expectation was that people would be here. Some would take it in class and whatnot, and some would not. And by the way, if you do want to take the exam in class, feel free to. You're more than welcome to do that. Just let me know if you would, please, so that I can have a paper copy available for you in order to be able to do that. Or you can also take it at one of the testing centers if that is your desire as well. So you've got those 3 options of how to take the exam. Okay. Okay, so that's really it. There's not much for me to go over. It's really, this class session is for you, and I'm more than happy to go over anything that you have as a question for me of what the exam is to look like, any individual topics that were unclear that needed to be cleaned up and whatnot. I'm more than happy to do that. So if anybody has any participation they want to put in the chat box, feel free to do that. And I'll go ahead. What I'm going to do is, in fact, let me see here. I know it's a little bit early. I know this is a fairly brief video and whatnot for those of you who are watching it. But I did want to sort of give you an update as a briefing as to what to expect for this particular exam. So I'm going to go ahead. I'll stop the recording now. Anybody who's on the Zoom link now will still be on. We're not going to lose you. So feel free to type your question in the chat box. If you want me to call you, I'll do that. It's no problem. I'm available, really throughout all the morning, and I can do that. But I'll do it right here in the next few minutes, and we can talk, or we can just simply chat with the chat box, and that'll work as well. Or anybody who wants to contact me between now and Thursday, feel free to send me an email or call me, whichever you prefer. Also, let me give you my cell phone number again. I know people think I'm crazy for getting this out, but really, I mean, cell phones are not that crazy of a deal anymore. It's no big deal. Just call me or text me if you have a question, particularly if you're in the exam and something goes wrong, you have a power outage and you get kicked out and can't get back in. Let me know, and I'll get with you. And you can do it through Sunday. It's not a problem. I'll try to do my best to get in and to help you sort of resolve the problem. No problem there. Okay. All right. So questions for me? I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording, and I'll go ahead. This link will be posted to the Brightspace page. For those of you who are live on the link, you can feel free to get with me. Otherwise, I hope everybody has a great experience with the final exam, and have a good rest of your semester and finals week. And I'll see you next time.